Splitting the sea. Third reading 15 Moses then began to pray to God. 2. But God said to Moses, "Why are you crying out to me? The Egyptians are almost upon you." Now is the time for action, not prayer. And in any case, the outcome of this situation is not dependent upon you, but on me. As to what to do, speak to the Israelites and let them journey forth. In the combined merit of their forebears and the faith they themselves showed in me when they left Egypt, 27 The sea of reeds will split before them. 16 As for you, take up your staff and raise your arm over the sea of reeds and split it, and the Israelites will go into the midst of the sea on dry land. 17 And as for me, I am going to harden the hearts of the Egyptians so that they will go in after them. I shall thus be glorified in the eyes of the world through what will then happen to Pharaoh and his entire army, his chariots and his horsemen, when I drown them in the sea. 18 The Egyptians here and back in Egypt will then finally know that I am God, when I am thus glorified through Pharaoh, his chariots, and his horsemen. 19 As the Egyptians approached, the angel of God that had been advancing in front of the camp of Israel now moved and followed behind them in order to keep the Egyptians from penetrating into the Israelite camp and to absorb whatever arrows and rocks the Egyptians would hurl at the Israelites. 28 From the point that the danger to the Israelites became palpable and throughout the ensuing night, the heavenly court deliberated over whether the Israelites should be allowed to escape or drown in the sea with the Egyptians. At nightfall, the pillar of cloud, instead of disappearing as it usually did, also moved from in front of them and stood at their rear. 20 It came and positioned itself between the camp of the Egyptians and the camp of Israel. Thus, there was cloud and darkness for the Egyptians, for the pillar of cloud hid the light shed by the pillar of fire. It was so dark for the Egyptians that they could not see the Israelite camp at all. They could no longer attack the Israelites, so the angel of God was no longer needed and departed. 29 But the Egyptians continued to shoot arrows and hurl projectiles nonetheless, so the pillar of cloud now absorbed these. 30 But although it was dark for the Egyptians, the pillar of fire lit up the night for the Israelites. Because the pillar of cloud blocked the Egyptians' vision, neither camp came near the other all through the first 2/3 31 of the night. 21 Moses raised his arm over the sea. And God drove back the sea throughout the night with a powerful east wind, which he uses to punish the wicked. 32 And turned the sea into dry land, and, in addition, the waters all over the world split, so the whole world would know of this miracle. The sea split into 12 pathways, one for each tribe. 33 22 The Israelites went into the midst of the sea on dry land, and the water formed a wall for them on their right and on their left. The tribe of Benjamin was the first to enter. 34 23 As the pillar of cloud followed the Israelites into the sea, the Egyptians' ability to see was restored. The Egyptians, all of Pharaoh's horses, chariots and horsemen, came in pursuit after the Israelites into the midst of the sea. 24 Despite their numbers, however, God thwarted them easily. The night is divided into 3 parts, during each of which a different watch of angels takes its turn singing God's praises. During the 3rd watch of the night, which is already the beginning of the morning, God looked down upon the camp of the Egyptians and confounded them with the pillar of fire and the pillar of cloud. The pillar of cloud turned the seabed under the Egyptians into mud, and the pillar of fire made the mud boiling hot, so the horses' hooves fell off. God then made all the ensigns on the chariots fall off and made it thunder. All this threw the camp of the Egyptians into confusion. 25 The hot mud burnt the wheels of the chariots, and they fell off. God thus removed the wheels of their chariots, so the horses dragged them on the ground. He thus treated the Egyptians heavily, shaking up the riders and dislocating their joints. The Egyptians said, "Let us flee from Israel, for God is fighting for them against Egypt." As God struck the Egyptians at the Sea of Reeds, he simultaneously struck many more back in Egypt. When the sea split, the heavens also split open, and as the people emerged from the sea, even the least of them beheld a prophetic vision superior to any the biblical prophets would ever experience. 35.